Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Our first item will be our opening ceremony, pledge to the flag. Please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, sir. Next item this evening will be recognition of Ogden Dickerson. Please come forward.
So I'd like to recognize Ogden Dickerson this evening with this resolution from the Board of Supervisors. Whereas Ogden F. Dickerson began his career with Springersbury Township on May 10th, 1999 as a patrolman in the police department, and whereas Ogden Dickerson was assigned to the position of detective in the Criminal Investigations Division of the police department on November 19th, 2004, and whereas Ogden Dickerson was promoted to the position of corporal with the police department on August 18, 2014, and whereas Ogden Dickerson served the citizens of Springersbury Township for over 25 years with dedication and faithful service, and whereas Ogden Dickerson began his retirement from Springersbury Township on July 1st, 2024, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Springersbury Township, on behalf of all the citizens of Springersbury Township, acknowledges sincere gratitude and appreciation for his years of dedication, leadership, and faithful public service. The board congratulates Ogden F. Dickerson on his retirement and wishes him and his family much happiness and good health. Adopted this 25th day of July, 2024. Congratulations.
Okay, I'm going to keep this short because I know how much this guy just loves being the center of attention. So I met Ogden in 1999 in May when he started with the Springersbury Township Police Department. That's when I first met Ogden F. Dickerson III. His first assignment was the police academy. So he returned to us 3 months later with his new array of vast knowledge from the police academy and was assigned to me as his field training officer. Our very first conversation was, we have to requisition you a nickname because Patrolman Ogden F. Dickerson III was just a mouthful. So after much deliberation, he became Odie. It's Ogden Dickerson, the initials. Yeah, police officers are really clever with nicknames. And just to dispel any rumors, it's not the dog from Garfield. It literally is his it's his initials. So from that point on, Odie stuck. And it became the moniker for one of the most respected officers in Springersbury Township history. So it was Ogden's personality and the manner in which he did his job that endeared him not only to the officers, but to the public also. Since his announcement of his retirement, I've had numerous conversations with people expressing their congratulations for his retirement, but at the same time lamenting the fact that we're losing him here at Springersbury Township. He's had a very big impact on this township and on this community. I'm very honored to call him not only a colleague. Swore I could do this. Not only my colleague, but my friend. So covering some of the accomplishments and assignments that he's had throughout his time, He was assigned to patrol in 1999, like we said. He also became a field training officer in 2002, so 3 years after he was assigned to patrol, he's a field training officer, which is impressive. And then even more impressive, we did discuss that he was a detective, but that detective position came 5 years into his career. He was assigned to criminal investigations, which was another impressive accomplishment. In 2004, he was also named the Springersbury Township Police Officer of the Year. Might have something to do with the patrol and detective assignment. And then in 2014, he was promoted to the rank of corporal, and he was our patrol corporal for the remainder of his career. He also, in 2014, became a member of the York County Quick Response Team as a hostage negotiator, and he remained in that position until his retirement as well. Very big accomplishments. Odie, we're going to miss you. Fortunately, we do still get to see him. He took a job with the York County Detectives, and we still get to see him on a pretty regular basis, so congratulations on that. We wish you well on that and in your retirement, man. Well deserved, my friend. So what we present our officers with upon their retirement is one of the firearms that they carried during their time on duty, as well as their retirement badge. So at this time, I would like to present Ogden with both of those things. Corporal retirement. Sorry, Ogden, the flowers are not for you. So we cannot make it through a 25-year career in law enforcement without strong support from our family. Cheryl, these are for you because of your incredible support of not only Ogden, but the department, and your sacrifice with sharing with us for all those years. So thank you very much. Unless you want to say something.
I will say something. I appreciate the time I spent here. It was an honor to serve the community of Springersbury Township and its citizens. I couldn't have done it without my support of my wife and my family and my friends, and I'm going to miss these guys that stand in the back room there. You have no idea how much I'm going to miss you guys. So just stay in touch. I'm local, so stay in touch. Thank you. Welcome.
Now, you're all welcome to stay and enjoy this very exciting meeting that we have planned. Oh, okay. So we have had no executive sessions since our last meeting. So at this point, I would like to open up the floor to communication from citizens. If there's anybody who would like to address the board, please come forward to the podium. Mark, do you want to? If you'd like to address the board, come forward, state your name and address for the record. If you are on Zoom and would like to address the board, please click the raise hand button. Anyone? All right, then moving on, engineering reports. First, we have environmental engineering. Diana?
I should not have to follow that with any discussion of wastewater. It's really not fair. But there are no updates to the report that we submitted. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, now our civil engineering report.
As you can see, I'm not John Luciani. He is at the beach this week, enjoying some. time with the family. So,
Looks like he's online.
he's never far away. Let's say that. But we do have some things to add to the engineer's report. We did receive late last week Shiny Shell Car Wash's resubmission plan at 3021 East Market Street. The East York Intermediate School resubmission at 701 Erland Drive on late last week. The WLR Auto we received at 1701 Whiteford Road, 1705 Whiteford Road, and 1710 Whiteford Road. We received a partial submission of that. And then the Druck Valley subdivision and Radio Road, we received the resubmitted ENS plan, but have not received the land development subdivision resubmission plan yet for that. Any questions?
Anybody? Thank you. All right, now we have our consent agenda of items A through H. Are there any items on this list that anyone would like to have removed for further discussion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through H.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have bids, proposals, contracts, and agreements. First is, get down here, authorization to execute traffic signal easement agreement with AGN Properties LLC, 2450 Eastern Boulevard.
Mr. Chairman, this is the southwest corner of that intersection where we just need a little extra right-of-way for equipment.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for authorization to execute the traffic signal easement agreement with AGN Properties LLC at 2450 Eastern Boulevard.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have amendment to Articles of Agreement between PA American Water Company and Springersbury Township.
Mr. Chairman, this is just amending the term of the agreement to September 1st. Nothing else has changed.
I'll move to approve the amendment to the Articles of Agreement between Pennsylvania American Water Company and Springersbury Township.
Second.
This is Charles. I'll second.
Too late. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, we have approval of emergency sanitary sewer repair, Riley Drive. It's approval of Kinsley Construction invoice number 125745 in an amount of $185,860.
Mr. Chairman, if the board recalls, in late May, I alerted the board that we discovered, our crews discovered that section of sewer was collapsed. It wasn't totally collapsed, but it was hard to determine how much room was left in the collapse. So I authorized the sewer repair. It was done. We hired Kinsley to do it. It was not able to be determined what caused the sewer to be collapsed, but it was significantly collapsed over its manhole run, which was over 200 feet.
Mark, is this a budgeted item within a category, or are we kind of outside budget for this thing?
It is not budgeted, but there is there are funds available in the Spring and Sperry Sewer Capital Reserve to cover it.
Got it. Okay.
I'll move to approve the Kinsley Construction invoice number 125745 in the amount of $185,860.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, we have subdivisions and land development. Land development 2023-0003, Molimo LLC Industrial Park Lot Expansion, 1410 Eden Road.
Good evening to the Board of Supervisors. This is a plan that the Board of Supervisors at least seen back in January of this year in regard to some waivers that they were looking to get some feedback from the Board of Supervisors. So at least you had some exposure to this plan previously, and the plan is now coming in front of the board tonight for potential action. They have been through the Planning Commission, received conditional approval in April 18th meeting for the PC, and also they recommended approval of the waivers that are being requested tonight as well in regard to the plan. In essence, this is a parking lot expansion and also where some of their storage area is. This plan did not go in front of the York County Planning Commission. They did not deem it as land development. So just making you aware that I think that's addressed in the plan summary that it was not entertained by the York County Planning Commission. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to the consultant with Site Design Concepts. Mr. Neil Mesker is here representing the plan.
Yeah, good evening. As Mr. Howman had indicated, I was here with the president of Molimo, Mr. Richard Bisco, in January to discuss the project as a whole, as well as some critical waiver requests that we were pursuing, just to get some informal feedback. And so we've slowly progressed, made revisions, worked through the County Conservation District, and we feel that the project is far enough along at a point that there's very few outstanding items at this point. We actually just received our NPDES permit from the York County Conservation District yesterday. So we would respectfully request a recommendation of approval of the waivers as requested. I believe there's 8 waivers, as well as a conditional approval of the final land development plan to do this parking lot expansion and an expansion of their outside test/storage area that's conducted on site so that they can move forward with an expansion of their business operation here in Spring and Sperry Township. We are also providing a very large stormwater management basin in the rear that has, it serves 2 purposes. It's helping to manage the stormwater that's coming off the additional impervious surfaces that we're adding, as well as creating some floodplain storage space to offset the increase in the stormwater that's a result of this project. There is no vertical structures being proposed. However, there is an increase in stormwater as a result of the impervious. However, we're creating a very large basin area below grade so that we have worked through both First Capital Engineering as well as the County Conservation District, and they've determined that we're having no floodplain impacts. Actually, if anything, it would make an incremental reduction in the flood elevations in this particular area that's really just a storage area along the side of Mill Creek. So the waivers that we're requesting are preliminary plan, which is 289-10. We're requesting a waiver from the requirement to submit and do a photometric plan. The business operates from 7 to 4, and they have no hours. They do not get visitors, and the employees leave. So their operation year-round is during daylight hours, and it's our request to not install lighting. They have two or three, I think they have three existing lights that were there from when 84 Lumber was there that currently illuminates the area in front of the building, the parking in front of the building. However, as we expand the parking area towards US 30, the request is not to install lighting for that parking area based on the fact that there's really no real need for that lighting, and we feel that it's best, obviously, not to illuminate it from light pollution as well as just using energy for something that's not really needed. So that's from 289-10.A to D. And the next waiver request is traffic study 289-21. I believe throughout this process from last September till now, it's been indicated that it really, a traffic study of this particular facility would really have there'd be no recommendations in terms of improvements. And the fact is, we're actually not adding any buildings, so you can't really figure out what's going to be the increase in traffic, which is how you calculate increases in traffic and comparing to what's there. The next request is regarding public sidewalks along both sides of the streets. That waiver is from 289-32.A, and we're requesting a waiver. And I believe when we talked in January, we don't foresee there ever being a need for sidewalks in this area. I looked at Google Maps, and there's no sidewalks along 30 the whole way from Mount Zion to I think the Sheets there as you head way west there near York, New Salem, Route 616. And then there are sidewalks along the east side of Eden Road, but there's no residential areas in the near vicinity. It's all industrial when you look north-south. And in terms of even the topographical constraints to extend a sidewalk along the west side of Eden Road, there seems to be, it would be an immense challenge to do it. There's stormwater ponds. I think there's some guide rails you head north from there. So we're requesting that, and then there's a question of whether we need to put the 6-month note regarding in terms of future notices to install sidewalks along both frontages. The next one's landscaping/buffer yards. That's section 289-35A. We are proposing streetscaping along Eden Road, which should beautify and help to soften the view of that existing area. And then along 30, it sits down around, I think, 25 feet below road grade. And there's a billboard there, so we're requesting relief to install no landscaping. We are installing slightly less than what would be full compliance with the streetscape buffer along Eden Road, but that's that particular request. And so far, we've received favorable recommendations from the Planning Commission, and the staff at this point, I don't believe, objects to that waiver. The sixth one, streetlights, section 289-36, which kind of goes hand in hand with public sidewalks, so we're requesting a waiver of that particular requirement. And the seventh one is from side slopes as it pertains to a stormwater management basin. I believe the maximum permitted one is 4-to-1 slope. We're requesting to be allowed to do a 3-to-1 cut slope where we're building this particular basin to try to maximize the storage as well as the available storage that we can provide within the floodplain. And number 8 is regarding the required curbing per the township's construction and materials manual, and that's to be allowed to go with 6-inch vertical curb versus 8-inch reveal vertical curb in the parking lot. And Mr. Biska apologizes he couldn't be here. He had a prior engagement that was 5 months out, and or he had scheduled 5 months ago, and he respectfully apologizes, and he would like to have the sidewalks waived without the 6-month note, and that's his request to the board to consider that. But if the board feels that there may be a need at some point in the future to put sidewalks along the frontage, obviously, he would be willing to accept that request. And the conditions, there's 3 conditions in Mr. Heilman's recommendation to the board. The first one, actually, I provided Mr. Heilman proof that we now have the NPDS permit and the Conservation District approval. The second one, I believe, pertains more to public sidewalks. If we are required to do public sidewalks along Eden Road, obviously, the handicap ramps being compliant with the township standards, obviously, it would be a public sidewalk in township right away, and we would have to comply with that. So I'm not really sure that particular one is applicable at this point, unless the waiver is denied, and then we have to provide bonding. We have provided a cost estimate to First Capital Engineering, and we're just waiting for feedback on that particular item.
Okay, so I don't think that we have to remove the condition if we still have the 6-month note for sidewalks, and I don't think that I'm willing to give that up. I don't know about the rest of the board. And I know that we've had some discussions with the manager about taking a look at where in the community those 6-month notes could be applied to the benefit of the citizens of the area, that we could connect existing sidewalks.
Absolutely.
As far as the photometric plan, I just checked on my Google machine, and sunrise is 7:24 on December 21st this year, which is half an hour after start time, and if people are arriving before that, it's probably still dark outside. So it's not during the hours of daylight per se.
Not completely.
Just saying.
Correct.
I like the idea of the lower curbs so that we don't do as much damage to doors. Anybody have any other discussion points on this?
I have what may be a silly question. You're not expanding the buildings, you're not building new buildings, and you're not increasing the hours of business. Why do you need the extra parking spaces?
I think there may be inadequate parking currently out there,
Okay,
to be honest. I mean, I don't know, the township sees the facility more often than I do, but, I mean, there may be some employees added as a result of the expansion, but I believe that it probably needs some additional parking out there.
Okay.
And this will help to remedy that situation.
just thought I'd ask.
Well, they can park there without having to walk to it.
Okay. Or take a bus or public transportation. Makes sense.
So I do have a question, you know, and I was going back through the plan, and maybe I'm just missing it, but so the streetlights waiver, what you mentioned that there's sufficient illumination at your parking lot as you're proposing it. Wouldn't the streetlights also be helpful for that sidewalk if we would require the 6-month note activated?
I would think
Hand in hand.
they go, if you're gonna require the 6-month note for the sidewalk, you require the 6-month
Yep,
note for the
I agree.
streetlights.
Right.
What,
And
so-
therefore, oh, go ahead, Don.
Well, so do we really connect streetlights with sidewalks? I mean, isn't there value to a streetlight even if there's not a sidewalk?
There is value to streetlights without a sidewalk. Absolutely. Typically, the streetlights that are installed without sidewalk are the old Cobra head style that we're used to on telephone poles. The decorative streetlights really go hand in hand with the sidewalk, but don't need it for the sidewalk, it would illuminate the roadway more. But typically are decorative or go hand in hand with sidewalk.
So really then, if I'm hearing it, streetlights is by definition to illuminate the street, not necessarily to add value or illumination to the sidewalk.
And to illuminate the grass where the people will be walking because there's no sidewalk.
Well, that's possible too, Don. I don't disagree.
I wouldn't necessarily just say that the streetlights aren't beneficial to sidewalks. I mean, usually they're right there between the street and the sidewalk where it's illuminating both. And you typically put them probably more where there would be a need for lighting for pedestrians, whether it's on the street or on the sidewalk, than out in the country where you're not going to have a lot of pedestrians. Is that a fair?
That's fair.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall a discussion a few months ago when we first talked about this, that this particular site is not a pedestrian area traditionally. Not saying it couldn't become one in the future, but right now, the way the businesses are set up there, it's not really a pedestrian area. Is that a fair statement?
That's probably
That's a
fair.
that's a fair statement, and I think that's why we agreed to a 6-month note rather than making them put sidewalks and lights in. And it could be 20 years down the road, but there's still a note.
Yeah, I generally believe that in this industrial area that, George is right, that we don't necessarily need sidewalks for this particular tenant. Although we have sidewalks across the street, as I recall, at the post facility.
That is correct.
And here's a question for the applicant. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you've got the floor, Charles.
Well, I did have another question for the applicant. As I recall your track, there's no access to the rail trail or to any of those. I will say that there are some roadways back behind your property. I just want to make sure that no one would have access to those through your property. Is that correct?
That is
They'd
correct.
have to cross an intervening property to get to that network.
They would have to trespass on the railroad right away. And
Yeah,
I believe
okay.
the
Yep, that's
trails
right.
that might be four-wheeler trails or whatever, I think are between the levee and the railroad, which is off our property. This property ends, obviously before we get to the railroad, so there are no, legal paths to go from our property, towards the creek and get to the rail trail, or even get to the land in between the railroad and the rail trail.
So as we're here today, that's another reason why I don't think we need sidewalks, but I know the board's position was that, yes, we don't necessarily need them today, but the 6-month note is something we looked for.
Well, the other question that comes to my mind is, I believe that we just authorized a new utilization for a piece of property back off around Sandbank Road or something like that. That would be a potential place that people are going to be going more than they had in the past.
True statement.
And I guess obviously with the 6-month note, if the township and the staff and obviously the supervisors see that there is a need, I mean, that's a protection for the township then.
And I'm sorry I was not here, but did we put a 6-month note with any modifications to that Sandbank property for sidewalks?
It wasn't a development, it was just a zoning use, I believe.
Yeah, it was just.
It was just zoning
change.
action.
It was a
Yeah.
text amendment.
Yeah.
There was no bite at the
amendment.
apple relative to
It's just a
sidewalks.
text amendment. You haven't addressed what they're doing back there. You've
Right.
just updated the ordinance.
Do you know if you, when we met in January, I had mentioned that when you design the landscaping to install the landscaping so a future sidewalk could go in without interrupting that, was that done?
Yes, I did evaluate it. Yes, we can place the streetscaping there in front of the fence and still have enough room to do the 4-foot grass strip and the 4-foot concrete sidewalk. Because there's got to be some fill placed. Because I think once you get north of the driveway, the slope drops off right from the back of the curb. And the good thing is also that we have created more storage, floodplain storage space than what we need, so that there's actually storage that would offset that fill, because I think that fill might even be, placed within the floodplain as well. So yes, I have done an evaluation, because we're fine south of the driveway but north, but that we can install a sidewalk if it was ever determined to be needed and not affect that streetscaping that's part of this proposed plan.
Randall, is that consistent with your review of the same?
That is correct, yes.
Other questions?
The only other question I have is, are we under deadline pressure to approve or deny tonight?
We are not. The applicant has granted the township a time extension.
Till,
Well, the way our ordinance is, they have to notify us that they're looking for action. Then within 45 days from that request, then that's when the Board of Supervisors are required to take action. So they have not done that to date.
Don, is there a reason that we need to postpone?
I don't have a specific one. There just seemed to be, a few more than one question. I suppose I don't have a problem approving. I do have. I mean, I like Chairman Swamley have questions about the lighting of the new parking areas, and the 6-month note, I think, has the question, but I don't think that means we can't act. I don't really get any logic behind not putting lighting in a new parking area. At least not any logic that makes any sense as far as our ordinance goes, in my understanding of it.
Could we add that as a condition?
Or we could just remove the waiver for the photometric plan and
Yeah, we can deny the waiver, right?
Okay.
deny the waiver, and that, and then we have to take a look at the lighting at a later date.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a final plan approval.
Correct, and then the staff, obviously, I'm assuming if the waiver were denied
It's preliminary.
Yeah.
for the lighting, then the staff would have to find the lighting to be compliant with the regulations of the township.
Correct.
And once that's done, then
Township engineer would do that.
we would address all outstanding conditions at that point.
that what you're thinking, Don?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And I don't know where we are on, the sidewalks and the streetlights or in terms of a 6-month note or anything like that.
I thought we decided to leave the note in here that says applicant has agreed to place a 6-month note on the plan for both sidewalks and streetlights. At least that's in the wording that we have in front of us. Is that correct?
That is correct. What Mr. Metzger has indicated tonight in regard to the sidewalk was a request that we just received today from Mr. Bisco, as he reiterated. The prior thought was that they were agreeable to that.
So we need to make sure that's a condition, because
Well, as the modification is written, it's still in there. If we were to approve these modifications, there would be a 6-month note on both.
That is correct.
You mean the waivers?
Correct. Modifications and waivers.
Yeah.
There's a 6-month
Well,
note on both.
Some are called modifications. So are we approving a waiver or are we approving a modification?
Well,
It's a
I think the way
modification.
it's worded is the following modifications / waivers have been requested. So,
Yeah, the only one that's actually specifically called out as a waiver was the photometric plan.
Traffic study was a waiver.
Correct.
And traffic study and
I think that was it. Those two.
traffic.
Yeah.
That is correct. There's just those two that were specifically waivers. The others were modifications.
So the suggestion then is to remove the waiver for the photometric plan and have it conditioned upon working out appropriate street lighting with staff,
parking lot
parking lot lighting.
the parking lot lighting. What did I say?
with the township engineer and staff.
And everything else would be as written.
Works for me.
Clear as mud? Do you have all that?
If I may, Mr. Swamley, in essence, we could eliminate comment number 1 since we do now have the MPDS permit. As he indicated, we just got it yesterday. When this went out, we didn't have it, but we now do have it.
Have you reviewed it, Randall?
Yes, I have. It's satisfactory.
Where is that? Which one?
That is comment number 1. Or condition number
Under
1.
conditions of approval,
Yes, that's the first one.
Condition number 1.
Okay. So we're removing waiver number 2 and condition number 1 and adding condition on the parking lot lighting, meeting the standards with the township staff and the township engineer.
Correct. They would be providing us a photometric plan to adequately meet the requirements of the ordinance.
So you're going to have 2 different motions.
Correct.
You're going to have one for the
One for the
modifications and
modifications
waivers.
and waivers, and the other for the conditions.
Correct. So in the first one, what you would do is modify what Mr. Heilman has given you as verbiage and just eliminate the photometric
Correct.
request on there. Okay.
Who's going to make that motion? Want me to do it? All right, Charles, you're gonna force my hand here. So with reference to subdivision plan LD 2023-003, preliminary final land development plan for industrial parking lot expansion of Malamo LLC, I move to recommend approval of modification number 128, 289-10 preliminary plan, 289-21 traffic study, 289-32.a sidewalks, including the 6-month note, 289-35A landscaping buffer yards, 289-36 streetlights to be installed, including the applicant's 6-month note on the plan, 281-15B1J side slopes, modified to 3-to-1, construction and materials 02525-2 curb detail allowing a 6-inch curb height. And removing the waiver request number 2 for 289-10.A to D photometric plan.
You're denying,
Denying.
not removing, you're denying.
Denying it.
Yep.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Now, reference to subdivision plan LD 2023-0003, preliminary final plan, land development plan for industrial parking lot expansion, Malamo LLC. I move to recommend condition 289-32.a, 289-49, and adding a condition for the photometric plan and appropriate streetlight placement in the parking lot in accordance with staff and township engineer. Good?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
We didn't
right.
approve the plan, did we? We're not going to.
Yes, you did.
I thought we just did.
Did.
What was the question, Don?
Did you approve it? He was asking if the plan was approved.
It was
Was.
with the, with,
Yes,
The
correct.
conditions.
with our changes.
Waivers and conditions. Yep.
All right, so now we are at communication from supervisors. Does anybody have anything? Because I do. As soon as you're done, Charles.
Oh. Well, I actually don't have anything tonight, so
Okay. George?
I don't want to jump the gun.
You want me to go?
Okay.
I just have to find my notes.
You have something,
Just two
Don?
things. I do have something. Two things from Yalfer that have kind of been hanging around, and I apologize, I can't get to my notes. Ah, there we go. So just, from the last Yalfer commission meeting, it appears that the Yalford Commission is under the opinion that with respect to the adopting the new building codes, which the other two charter members have adopted at Yalford's recommendation, that Springettsbury is somehow dragging their feet and not moving forward with that. So I think we need to have some clarity around that issue or address it at some point, not necessarily right now. And similarly, the volunteer tax credits that are being considered. So I'm not sure where those two are. I just don't like, I want to make sure that we're doing what we intend to do with those two.
Can we have an agenda item for next time to
We can.
discuss those two?
Absolutely.
Anything else, Don?
Nope, that's it.
All right, so Charles, at I guess based on a discussion you had with our president commissioner of York County, I got a phone call today to talk about bells across America. And I wanted to bring this up just as a comment that what they're planning on doing in York County is a number of fiberglass bells plus one cast brass or bronze bell.
Bronze.
Bronze. And they were asking, well, Julie and Brian Tate reached out to me about the potential of having the bronze bell located at Camp Security. And this would be in the 2025 timeframe. So I told them that we would have to have a discussion among board members and include Friends of Camp Security so that we're all on board and understand exactly what that means and where that might go and how we could potentially use that to the Camp Security benefit and our benefit. So I don't really want any further discussion on it tonight than to get it on everybody's radar that that request has been made. It's not an immediate request, but it will come up on us fast if we don't pay attention.
Mr. Chairman, I will just add a few more facts to the case. It is part of the 250th anniversary. Over the years after this board had passed a resolution about PA 250, I've shared that with Brian Tate, who is, in addition to his row officer position, he is also one of the points of contact for America 250 here in York County. So we've had this dialogue. I too, am interested in this opportunity and certainly want to have dialogue with Friends of Camp Security as well as staff, see what the application or what the implications are of this. But I think it's something we ought to discuss and consider.
I do have the PowerPoint from Julie, but I didn't want to share it tonight. It's just a number of facts about what they're doing with the bells across America. Okay, so I think the board got a notice about Penn Oaks Swim Club and our invite for, I think, this weekend. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
No? Okay, well, if it didn't get to all of you, I will forward it. In my email, it said to the Board of Supervisors, so. I guess that's about all for me tonight.
I have, in addition to Don's updates on Yalford, I have one Yalford update from the last commission meeting. And you may recall we had discussions before that there are two contracts up for negotiation this year at Yalford. There's the former Manchester Township firefighter contract, which is separate from the Spring Garden Springettsbury contract. And the Manchester contract discussions began a few months ago, and if you recall, Tim James, the manager for Manchester Township, is on that negotiating committee. So the Springettsbury Spring Garden negotiations just began with some proposals from the union. And if you recall, we had talked about enhancing that negotiating team by adding our manager who graciously volunteered to serve on that team.
I heard that.
But I will tell you, at the last YALFR meeting, that offer was rejected by YALFR. So at this point, we do not plan on using Mr. Hodgkinson on the negotiating committee.
And what were the reasons given, George?
I'll defer to Don. I have opinions, no facts, so maybe Don has some facts he'd like to share, but.
Or his own opinions.
Or his own opinions.
Why would you think that I'd have better facts than you? I'll tell you that the discussion almost exclusively from the chair of the commission, in my mind, came down to, well, if Springettsbury is going to have representative, then we should too.
Okay.
Except for we don't want to. You know, and the only comment I heard from Manchester Township was that they have complete faith in the staff, you know, the bargaining team that was in place before. I will tell you that I will share that that I've never seen Mr. Dvorak more passionate than on this subject in front of that commission. And I agreed with him, but we were going to lose no matter what, I think.
I'll just add, again, this is fact, not opinion. I'll just share, when he mentioned my passion, it was kind of along the lines, although I may have articulated a little differently there, but kind of along the lines that, to me, it's mind-boggling that we offer a resource such as Mark, who has successfully negotiated our contracts, and they turn it down. Now, I may have articulated a little bit differently at the YALFR meeting, but that's the essence of what I was trying to capture there, that it's just kind of mind-boggling to me. But there's a reason why Spring Garden has annual tax increases. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, if we're done with communication from supervisors, I'd like to move on to committee reports, and with permission of the board, I'd like to move our new business item, Friends of Camp Security update, up to where it probably should be with committee reports. Is that okay?
Thank you. I was getting stiff. It's an age thing. What can I tell you? We have had a wonderful working relationship with this board through our archaeological investigations of camp security. And this year, as you may know, we have operated totally on nonprofit basis with support from the community and people that have been involved in digging and whatever. And the help that we have received from the township, which we greatly appreciate, has been permission and occasionally helping us fill in the holes after we dig and maybe doing some mowing. Lynn Godfrey has assisted in plowing over the years, and I've gone from, lady, I'm giving you a shovel, to I'll stop by for cocktails. So I think we're good there. But anyway, in the process of moving forward and working toward continuing our exploration of the site, and again in coordination with the 250th coming up, we decided to attempt to apply for a National Park Service grant through the American Battlefield Protection Program. And we were awarded our grant, one of 8 in the country, the second highest, for $149,501.59 to do a dig at the site over the next year and a half, roughly. So putting everything together, The whole committee of our board of directors, it was a conglomeration of all of us putting our heads together to do this application. I've asked John Cromer to come along and kind of explain what we'd like to do. One of the things that we do need from the board is an actual letter from Mr. Hodgkinson giving us permission to do the dig. So I would like to request that, and I'm going to ask John to go ahead and explain to you what we would like to be doing in the future here.
Sure. So I'm just going to go over some of the broad strokes with the NPS grant that we recently received. The grant is non-matching, so we don't have to come up with any additional funds to be awarded the money. And the overall goal is to completely survey the entire camp security stockade. So if you remember back in 2022, the fall, we initially found a little piece of the stockade, and then we followed that up the next year. We found an additional 40 feet. And then this past season, just about a month ago, we wrapped up excavation where we uncovered about additional 120 feet. So this grant will pay for additional excavation, additional research to be able to mark out and map the entire stockade footprint. Yes. Just a reminder of where we are. All of the work on the stockade, everything related to this grant, will be happening in the Weiss Lower Field. It's that sort of pink-colored area on the map. For reference, oh yeah, there we go. Eastern Boulevard is up here, and Locust Grove Road right here. Rough anticipated project timeline. So the first phase is pre-survey work, so there's some compliance things that we have to do. That'll be from roughly September to December of this year. Then the Forensic Camp Security will release a request for proposals to select a cultural resource contractor to do the actual survey work. Then the survey work we anticipate spring and fall of 2025, and then another project in the spring of 2026, just in time for the 250th. The archaeology survey and analysis, each project will include the survey work along with post-field work analysis, artifact curation, report writing, and the actual field work will be divided into 40-day seasons, 8-week seasons. The post-survey work will be the delivery of the final report and all sort of project outcomes. Anticipated outcomes, so there will be a series of interim and final archaeology reports, curated artifacts, everything that we're pretty similar with at this point with the Forensic Camp Security digging at the site. But really importantly, we're going to have GPS coordinates and a complete map of the stockade footprint. At the end of the day, at the end of this project, we'll be able to accurately mark the stockade footprint on the present-day landscape, so either with pin flags or surveying paint or whatever. And we believe that this will be critical information for future planning for the property, and however that planning takes shape. But knowing exactly where the stockade is pretty important for that planning process. So just a summary, we were anticipating doing 8-week excavations in the spring of 2025, fall of 2025, and the spring of 2026. All work will take place in the Weiss Lower Field, and we request that the township manager provide a letter giving the Forensic Camp Security permission to have the work completed. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you go back to the map?
Yeah.
I have two handicaps here. One, I can't see the pointer that you have there.
Oh, you can't see my pointer.
And two,
okay.
And two, I'm colorblind, so I'm not sure which the pink field is.
That makes things a little tricky, huh? Okay.
How do we explain that?
Right. Can you see the hand?
Yes, I can see the hand.
Yeah, that field there. That's where all the work will take place.
so. Got it.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. Congratulations, that's outstanding work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
There's one other very interesting fact that has come through with all of this. John and I had the opportunity to meet with Lieutenant Colonel Nicholas Falinsky from the British Embassy, 2 weeks ago? And I gave him a copy of last year's report, and the British Embassy is very interested. They would like to bring people up here to see the site. They've offered to do a flag presentation, whatever. Perhaps that can coincide with the Liberty Bell presentation, whatever. I mean, I think this, the national grant in itself is, a national trust grant in itself is a huge honor. And I think it's kudos to the township for allowing us to proceed as we have, and we just formally need a letter of permission that we can continue to do this and go to town and start documenting this site. So we thank you for your consideration and request a letter of permission. Thank you. Any questions?
I don't have any. Anybody? How about a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the township manager to submit a permission letter to the National Park Service.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Solicitors report.
Nothing to add to the report, unless there's any questions. Mr. Chair.
No bees or chickens? Managers report, Mark?
I do not have anything to add to my written report.
Anybody have questions? All right. Ordinances and resolutions. I think we all signed this already, didn't we?
You did.
Resolution number 2024-43, recognition of Ogden Dickerson. I guess we have to formalize it.
Yes.
I'll move for the adoption.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of Resolution 2024-43, recognition of Ogden F. Dickerson upon his retirement.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Old business. Are there any items on here that anyone wants to discuss this evening? I take that as a no.
That's correct.
And the final new business item would be acknowledge resignation of Claire Weigel from the Parks and Rec Board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the resignation of C.J. Weigel from the Parks and Recreation Board.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 That brings us to the end of our agenda. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.